I used to be terrible with variable expenses. I discovered 7 problems caused by irregular expenses when they're not managed properly. First, I was constantly short on cash. My budget was disrupted, and so were my plans. I couldn't maintain an emergency fund. I was making late payments, affecting my credit score and racking up fees. I was not able to make long-term savings goals. I missed opportunities, not only financial opportunities, but just fun stuff, like going out and enjoying my time. And finally, I was constantly stressed out. If you stick around, not only will you see how I managed to overcome every one of these problems using average monthly payments, at the end, I'll tell you how I supercharged my budget to even beat future problems. Now, I'm sure that some of your bills seem to be all over the map, like they're taking your budget on a wild goose chase. With your groceries, some weeks are just picking up the basics, and other times you have holiday dinners, parties, or larger pantry restocking. When buying gas, the amount you spend depends not only on your plans, but the heavily fluctuating price. Your power bill dips and raises seasonally based on your heat or AC usage. And then there are those unexpected expenses that pop up out of nowhere and throw your budget for a loop. When you're first learning how to budget, these expenses can make it difficult to cover everything at the level that you'd like. You may have to pull from your groceries to cover a high power bill, or you can't spend as much on entertainment because gas is out of control. So drop a comment below telling what variable expenses you're dealing with on a monthly basis. Now, the strategy I teach to help people manage variable expenses is average monthly billing. Even though your actual bill may have a large swing from high to low, that doesn't mean you have to budget that way. Using the average monthly billing strategy will allow you to take these fluctuating payments and budget them as consistent and regular amounts. By adding up your bill totals from the entire year or from whatever time frame that you have and getting a monthly average, you'll get a payment that is a lot easier to manage and budget for. There are 3 easy steps to calculating your average monthly payments. Step 1, gathering information. Whether it's bank statements or bill histories, you want to get as much historic information on the bill as possible. If you don't have historic information, an educated guess is better than nothing. Now, you can follow this process with single bill payments like your power bill or multiple payment expenses like your groceries. You just need to get between 3 to 12 months of payment history. The closer you can get to a year, the better. Step 2, get an annual total cost, or a total cost for however many months you've got. Do this by simply adding up all of the months of expenses. And then step 3, divide the total by the number of months in your total. So 12 for a year, of course. This average amount will become your monthly budget for this expense. Now, in the low months, your budget will be higher than the expense, and this extra money will be set aside. That way, when you're over in the months where the expense is higher than the average, you have the excess from the lower expense months to cover it. This will allow you to cover the bill year-round without dipping into your emergency fund. The amount set aside in these low payment months will need to be tracked to ensure it stays allocated right where you planned. There are a few options to assist you with this tracking. You can set up an account for the variable expenses, but that may be several accounts to ensure tracking for all of them. There are budgeting apps out there that can help, like Rocket Money, You Need a Budget, or the EveryDollar app. Some of these may have a fee to get the full-featured app, or you can use a spreadsheet like I do to keep track of your budget. It can take some time to adjust to this budget approach. Like if you start in the higher expense months, you're still gonna struggle because you haven't built up the surplus funds. On the flip side, if you start during the low expense months, it can be easier because you'll begin saving those surplus funds right away. The trick is developing the discipline to let this money sit for several months without using it for something else. 2 practices that will help you develop this budgeting strategy to help reduce your financial stress. First, consistency. Stick to paying or setting aside the same amount each month. And second, making adjustments. Review and adjust your average payments periodically, especially if your usage patterns change. Now, I've created a PDF to assist you with this process. You can download it in the description below. So let's take a look at my power bill as we review this sheet. So here you can see my monthly power usage. I have several highs and several lows throughout the year. Now, my bill shows a 6-month history. So for simplicity, we'll just use that. Now, on the download, you'll have a section to total up each month's expenses with a space for multiple entries for each month. Then at the center, there's a space for each month's total expense. Add those up at the bottom, and this gives you your total expense for the period. At the bottom of the form, you'll see where you divide the total by the number of months in your measured period. Now that gets you the average monthly expense. This next box is how I supercharge my budget. But first, Financial Journeys is here for you. If you need additional help analyzing your expenses and formatting your budget, use the link in the description below and schedule your free 15-minute call, and we can see if we're a good match to work together. Now, I told you I would show you the trick I use to supercharge this technique. Once I was able to get this budget on track and keep it balanced, it reduced my stress every time I sat down to do my budget. But still, every so often, prices go up. Inflation is a real thing, and since this budget is based on history, it has this one little blind spot. So I took this monthly average and I started adding to it. Not much, just 1% at first. Then over time, as my income increased, I adjusted this percentage up to 2%. Now, over the course of a year, a $100 a month expense winds up with $24 surplus in the account to cover price increases or larger fluctuations. Then as you update this monthly average, the new higher price will be incorporated into your budget. Now, this whole process smooths your budget to make it easier for you to manage irregular expenses as well as adjust to price increases without major stress. Now, if you also have irregular income, you can check out this video on how to handle irregular income.